On the news, newly elected House Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana has wasted no time outlining the agenda for his first 100 days as the House moves from weeks of inaction. The standalone bill for aid to Israel is expected this week. Conservatives also want to vote on 12 individual single-subject spending bills instead of one large federal spending package, where Johnson says he will continue to move forward as time allows. But the Louisiana Republican remains open to another short-term stopgap funding measure to keep the government open if necessary, with many conservatives saying there is willingness to hear Johnson out on that if it comes to it. The continuing resolution Congress passed to avoid a shutdown under former Speaker McCarthy expires November 17th.
There's a lot of, I think, willingness to give him some flexibility, give him the room to maneuver that he needs. They don't want to go through what they've just gone through over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Speaker Johnson has made it clear he supports the ongoing impeachment inquiries into the Biden family finances and also a possible impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for his failure in handling the crisis at the southern border. Joining us now is Chris Farrell, Director of Research and Investigation at Judicial Watch. Chris, welcome back to Victory News.
Thanks for having me on your show.
All right, so what do you think of our new Speaker, Mike Johnson of Louisiana? Can he accomplish anything in his very short honeymoon window in Congress?
I'm very encouraged by the new Speaker and his approach to business. He's laid out a plan. He wants to stick to the 12 appropriations bills that will fund the government instead of this roll it all into one and jam it through package that we've been doing for years and years now. I think he's also very wise to have an individual standalone bill on defense spending and support for Israel and the brutal attack that they've suffered. I'm very encouraged. I have a very optimistic outlook for a guy who really kind of came out of nowhere, and he seems to really have all the tools and all the skills necessary to be a great speaker.
It was kind of like a David moment. Is there anybody else left in this family? Oh, yeah, okay, there's one guy, he's out here, let's go get him. Now, Israel began its expanding ground operation into Gaza this weekend. It appears to be a slow and measured process as opposed to an IDF invasion of the Hamas stronghold. U.S. Congresswoman Cori Bush is calling it ethnic cleansing. So does Israel have to win the actual war on the ground and the political one and the media?
Yeah, I had predicted that Israel would have about 4 or 5 days of positive PR and sort of coverage in the news media. I was very, very mistaken. They had about 6 hours of sympathetic coverage in the news media. The vicious attacks by leftist media to grossly mischaracterize and engage in a real pattern and practice of moral equivocation and relativism in attacking Israel is so repulsive. It is repugnant. And I mean, I condemn the media's coverage of how they treat Israel and what they've gone through, rather than identifying the Hamas terrorists for being what they are and discussing what they did. Now the focus is swung around completely the other way, and Israel's under a microscope, totally in an unjust, unreasonable way.
Okay, now to this point, Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, just returned from Saudi Arabia, where he discovered they're still interested in joining the Abraham Accords, but his observation on the tolerance and freedom of speech was surprising. Here it is.
One of the ironies is that as an American Jew, you're safer in Saudi Arabia right now than you are on a college campus like Columbia University. I spoke at the conference. They allowed me to speak freely.
Kushner said a Jewish person is safer in Saudi Arabia. You saw anti-Jewish protesters in the Brooklyn Bridge this weekend. New York Post reported that George Soros' Open Society Foundation has provided $15 million to anti-Israel causes. So are wealthy liberals driving this wild anti-Semitism across the U.S., or is it someone like Iran?
It's both. It's foreign influence and foreign actors who are funding their influence operations. This is part of a strategy to propagandize and, frankly, to psychologically condition the American public. This is a very complex, deep, and well-funded operation by the globalist Soros Open Society crowd, by media and academic elites that promote this sort of ideology. And that's what we're seeing on the ground. I have very close friends who are senior uniformed police officers and NYPD and other law enforcement operations in the area of New York. And they have told me that they think that the city, that it's nuts, that they are on the verge of very dangerous conditions in New York City.
It's the 1930s, the pogroms again, and all of it. This month, you filed a lawsuit against the Department of Education. One of the groups you represented in the filing is the Daily Caller News Foundation. They said American citizens have a right to know if their government is plotting against moms or working behind the scenes to keep pornographic books in schools. Why didn't you seek information directly from the Biden administration and the Department of Education?
Well, there are restrictions on how much is actually FOIable or eligible or able to be sought from the Biden administration, from the White House under the Open Records Law. And so we have to go to the subordinate agencies like education and get the records from those agencies. And we'll continue to do so. This is what we do. We're the leading FOIA organization in the country. No one obtains more records than we do. And we're going to press on this issue because parents' rights come first, not the government.
They do. Judicialwatch.org is the organization you're talking about. People need to get familiar with it. Chris, thank you so much.